Hello everyone. So today we will be covering the following topic about the MAC address. So in relation to MAC address, we will be starting with very basics. What exactly is a MAC address? What is a NIC and other sort of things. So I will just be quickly sharing my screen and then I will explain each one of these things. So let me just share my screen. Hope it is visible. So we will be covering the following points in relation to the MAC address. What exactly is a MAC address? What is a NIC? What does a MAC address look like? Structure of a MAC address. How does it tell whether it is for Wi-Fi, for Ethernet, or it doesn't matter? And how long it can be in terms of size. So we will go one by one. What exactly is a MAC address, right? So these are some of the notes I have pulled uh, from my notes. So MAC address is a unique identifier which is permanently assigned to a network interface card by its manufacturer. So basically, the key points here are it's a hardware level address. So, in our, if we talk an example of, if we take an example of a device like laptop. So in our laptop, we have the network interface card for different network points. So for example, we connect to the internet by Wi-Fi, or maybe if our laptop has an Ethernet port, then we will plug in the Ethernet cable, and then the other end of the cable we will connect to the router, and that's how we will connect to the internet, or maybe via Bluetooth, right? So essentially, MAC address is always associated with a network interface card. And network interface card is basically the hardware component inside our devices that allows it to connect to a network. So for example, for Wi-Fi chip, there will be a network interface card. For Ethernet port, there will be a network interface card. And likewise for Bluetooth chip, there will be a network interface card. And for each of these network different interface cards, there will be a MAC address, which is like unique identifier for that network interface card. So this MAC address is generated by the manufacturer of the chip. So whichever company is building these chips or have built these chips for our laptops, so they generate this MAC address and then they basically put it into the network interface card. So it never changes, though there are some ways we can manually change it in the software, but on the hardware level, it's always permanent. It cannot be changed. Right? So if we think of it like a fingerprint, so no two people can have the same fingerprint. So similarly, no two NICs have the same MAC address. So now what we have gone through is in a nutshell is like what the MAC address is, and then how it is associated with the network interface card. And what network interface card is actually a hardware component by which we are able to connect to internet or different networks, right? So we have covered what exactly is a MAC address, what is a NIC. Now the next thing is, what does a MAC address look like? So if you look at this one, so MAC address is actually a combination of digits and hexadecimal characters, right? So this is an example of MAC address: A4C3 F0 85721B. So we can see it has 6 different pairs, and each pair may or may not be a combination of digits or digits plus hexadecimal characters. So essentially it's a hexadecimal format, and different there could be some different separators, we call them. So like these 6 pairs can be something like separated by colon, or it can be separated by hyphen, right? Or sometimes even in used in Cisco devices, we can see that we still have the 12 characters, including digits and hexadecimal numbers, but then it is a grouping of 4. So 4 and 4 and 4. 4 characters, then dot, then 4 characters, then dot, then 4 characters. But still, overall, it's 12 characters, like that. Now, coming to the next thing, structure of a MAC address, right? So basically, MAC address is divided into 2 parts. We do not need to remember this in much details, but from a high level point of view, MAC address basically contains 2 things, 2 parts. First part is which company built this, generated this MAC address by building the network interface card. So looking at the first part, it can be known like which company built this chip for this network interface card, right? And the second part is just a device unique identifier, device ID, something like a unique identification for that device built by that company, right? So for example, if we look at these things, so the first part, first 3 pairs, so we can see it's Intel, for example, that's Apple, Google, or Realtek. And then this next part is the device identifier, right? Now, so far we have covered is what exactly is a MAC address, how it is associated with a NIC, and then what is a NIC, network interface card, then what does a MAC address look like. So that is what we have seen. Then the structure, like it contains 2 parts. One is the first part contains which company built this MAC address or chip, and then the second part is just the device identifier, right? So now one question which might arise to our mind is, looking at the MAC address, can we know whether it is for Wi-Fi chip, or it is for Ethernet, or it is for Bluetooth, right? So answer is no. So the MAC address itself doesn't tell you whether it's for Wi-Fi or Ethernet or Bluetooth. It's just like we can only tell looking at the MAC address whether which company built it and what is its device ID, right? But then there is a way to know like MAC address is for which hardware component, which NIC. So how it works is like whenever our laptop boots up, so operating system scans all the hardware inside, and then it detects each NIC. So whenever we are starting our system or laptop, then operating system will basically scan all the hardware components inside the laptop, and then it is going to detect there is a NIC, network interface card. So it identifies each NIC based on the hardware type, right? So it knows that this is a wireless chip, for example, and how it knows it is based on the chip itself is physically designed for either Wi-Fi or Ethernet. So Windows reads this from the hardware driver. So it's not that it's just the network interface card. So that is a physical hardware component, but on top of that, there is a driver. So every driver, every network interface card comes with a driver, which is nothing but a software program that tells the operating system what type of NIC this is, whether it's Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or Bluetooth, then how to communicate with it and what capabilities it has, right? So what we are saying is whenever our machine is starting up, operating system basically interacts with different hardware components. It detects there is a NIC. So from the driver part of the NIC, it knows like which network interface card type it is. Then the driver is what registers the NIC. So basically it's the software program that registers the network interface card with Windows as either a wireless or wired adapter. In terms of hardware component wise, for the NIC, so for example, Ethernet NIC has a RJ45 port, we know, or a Wi-Fi has internal antennas, no physical port. So Windows detects these physical characteristics through the driver. So what happens after Windows detects each NIC is once Windows identifies each NIC and its type by interacting with driver of the NIC, then it assigns a name for each NIC. So like it will say it's a Wi-Fi, or it will just say wireless network adapter, whatever name. Or for Ethernet, it will say local area connection or Ethernet. Similarly for Bluetooth, it will say like that. So it will read its MAC address, which we earlier said that company generated it. So it will read the MAC address and then associate the MAC address with this name which it has provided. So OS has assigned a name to each NIC, and then for each NIC, it knows now what is the MAC address of that NIC. So if we run this command ipconfig/all, then we will get to know the network interface card and which all network interface card we have in a machine, and then what is their MAC address and what is the name which has been assigned by the OS to each NIC. So overall, what we are saying is MAC address is a unique name. It doesn't carry any information about whether it's a NIC, whether this NIC is a Wi-Fi, Ethernet, or Bluetooth. It's just the hardware type and the driver that tells your operating system what kind of network interface it is. The other thing to remember is it is a permanent, unique hardware fingerprint burned into every network interface card, and like that. So some of the basic questions somebody might ask is how long is the MAC address? So MAC address is, as we said earlier, so it's a 6 bytes or 48 bits address, and it never changes. So that is what we have covered in this. So we have gone through what exactly is a MAC address, what is NIC, how the MAC address is related to network interface card, how the MAC address looks like, how long it can be in terms of size, structure of a MAC address, and then how basically we know via the ipconfig command the uh, name of the network interface card and what is its MAC address and things like that. So that's all for today. I hope it was useful. Thank you.